Today, October 5th, 2025, the U.S. Supreme Court upended American trade policy with a landmark ruling that will be studied for generations. In a decision that sent shockwaves through Washington and beyond, the highest court in the land fundamentally altered the way America engages with the global economy. The court struck down the legal foundation for global tariffs enacted by former President Trump, questioning the extent of presidential power over international trade. For years, these tariffs had been a cornerstone of U.S. economic strategy, but now, with a single decision, the legal scaffolding supporting them has been removed, leaving lawmakers and businesses scrambling to adapt. These tariffs, originally designed to protect American industries from foreign competition, sparked a costly and prolonged trade war. The ripple effects were felt across the globe, as supply chains were disrupted, prices for everyday goods climbed, and companies struggled to adjust to new realities. American consumers saw higher costs at the checkout, while manufacturers and farmers faced new hurdles in both domestic and international markets. Now, with the Supreme Court's ruling dismantling this framework, the nation faces a policy vacuum. The sudden absence of clear trade rules has created a climate of economic uncertainty, leaving businesses unsure how to plan for the future and policymakers racing to fill the gap with new legislation. The decision's impact is immediate and personal. Prices for groceries, electronics, and cars could fluctuate wildly. Job security in manufacturing and agriculture, sectors already under pressure, now hangs in the balance as companies weigh their options in a rapidly changing environment. Beyond America's borders, the ruling signals a potential pivot in U.S. foreign policy. Allies and rivals alike are forced to reassess their own trade strategies, as the world's largest economy redefines its approach to global commerce. Diplomatic relationships may be tested, and new alliances could emerge as countries seek stability in a shifting landscape. This ruling marks a critical turning point, not just for policymakers and CEOs, but for families and workers everywhere. The consequences will ripple through households, boardrooms, and trading floors worldwide, shaping the economic outlook for years to come. As the dust settles, the legal, political, and economic aftershocks will be felt for months, if not years. Experts debate what comes next, while ordinary Americans wonder how their lives will change. The uncertainty is palpable, and the stakes could not be higher. This is the story of how one court decision, made in a single moment, can redraw the map of the global economy, altering the course of nations, industries, and everyday lives in ways we are only beginning to understand. To truly grasp the headlines dominating today's news, it's essential to understand the concept of tariffs and how they've been wielded as powerful tools in economic policy. Tariffs are more than just a buzzword. They're a fundamental part of international trade, and their use can shape the fate of entire industries and economies. But what exactly are tariffs, and why do they matter so much? Simply put, a tariff is a tax imposed by a government on goods imported from other countries. By making foreign products more expensive, tariffs are designed to encourage consumers and businesses to buy domestically produced goods instead. This can help local industries grow, but it can also make everyday items costlier for shoppers. Historically, tariffs have served several purposes. They've been used to protect emerging industries from foreign competition, to generate revenue for governments, and as a tool to retaliate against what are seen as unfair trade practices by other nations. During Donald Trump's presidency, tariffs took center stage as a primary economic weapon. His administration imposed tariffs on hundreds of billions of dollars worth of goods, with a particular focus on imports from China, aiming to pressure foreign governments and protect American jobs. The legal authority for these actions came from Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act and the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA. These laws allowed the administration to justify tariffs on the grounds of national security and economic emergency. However, critics argued that the administration stretched the definition of national security, leading to a wave of legal challenges and heated debates in courts and Congress over the true intent and impact of these tariffs. The effects of these tariffs were immediate and far-reaching. While some industries like steel and aluminum saw short-term gains, many others suffered. American farmers, for example, lost access to key export markets as other countries retaliated with their own tariffs, leaving crops unsold and fields idle. Manufacturers faced higher costs for imported materials and components, forcing them to either absorb the losses or pass the increased expenses onto consumers in the form of higher prices at the checkout. The resulting trade war created a climate of uncertainty for businesses and investors, slowing economic growth and leaving many to question whether the benefits of tariffs outweighed the costs for the broader economy. The legal battle leading to today's ruling was driven by businesses caught in the trade war. They argued the president overstepped, as Congress regulates foreign commerce and taxes. The case, American Importers Alliance versus United States, questioned the use of emergency powers for trade policy. Lower courts were divided, but a pivotal ruling sided with importers, setting the stage for the Supreme Court. The justices expressed skepticism about unchecked executive power in trade. This foreshadowed today's outcome, reasserting constitutional limits on presidential authority. The ruling sets a precedent for the balance of power between the president and Congress. In a landmark decision, the Supreme Court has ruled that the use of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA, as a basis for imposing global tariffs, is unconstitutional. This historic verdict marks a dramatic shift in the balance of power between the executive and legislative branches, sending shockwaves through the legal and economic landscape. The immediate impact is staggering. Over $200 billion in taxes collected under these tariffs are now in question, potentially opening the floodgates for a wave of refund claims from importers and businesses across the country. The IRS and customs agencies are bracing for a deluge of paperwork and legal challenges as companies seek to recover funds paid under the now invalidated tariffs. For many, this is a resounding victory for the rule of law, reaffirming that the power to set trade policy and impose tariffs lies squarely with Congress, not the president. Lawmakers from both parties are now under pressure to respond, as the decision underscores the importance of clear legislative authority in shaping America's economic relationships. However, it's important to note that not all tariffs are affected. Those imposed under Section 232, which are justified on national security grounds, remain firmly in place for now, continuing to shield certain domestic industries from foreign competition. The sudden nullification of IEEPA-based tariffs has created a significant void in U.S. trade policy, leaving businesses and policymakers scrambling to adapt. Uncertainty looms over supply chains, and many companies are left wondering how to navigate the new landscape. Around the world, foreign governments are urgently analyzing the ruling, trying to determine how it will affect their own retaliatory tariffs and trade negotiations with the United States. Diplomatic channels are buzzing as leaders seek clarity and prepare for possible shifts in global trade dynamics. Financial markets wasted no time reacting. Stocks of major retailers and manufacturers surged on the news as investors anticipated lower import costs and improved profit margins. Wall Street celebrated, but the mood was far from unanimous. Meanwhile, domestic steel and aluminum producers are facing a wave of anxiety, fearing the loss of government protections that have helped them compete against cheaper imports. Workers and industry leaders are calling for new measures to safeguard American jobs. Ultimately, the Supreme Court's decision has reshuffled the American economy, creating a new landscape of winners and losers. As the dust settles, businesses, workers, and policymakers alike are left to navigate the uncertain road ahead, with the future of U.S. trade policy hanging in the balance. The Supreme Court's decision will impact American families' finances. Tariffs on imported goods raised prices for electronics, clothing, and more. With tariffs now illegal, prices should fall, though not overnight. Retailers will sell existing inventory before passing savings to consumers. Experts predict lower prices within 3 to 6 months, easing household budgets. The job market will also feel the effects, with industries relying on imports benefiting. Domestic industries protected by tariffs may face renewed competition. The decision could reopen foreign markets for American agricultural products. This would boost the agricultural sector, benefiting rural economies. The ruling ignites a political firestorm, reshaping the debate on presidential power. Congress hails it as a reassertion of their authority over trade and taxation. Supporters of the tariff policy see it as judicial overreach. The decision sets the stage for a political battle over trade negotiations. Future presidents must work closely with Congress on trade policy. This shifts the political landscape, emphasizing collaboration over unilateral action. The power struggle will define the political agenda, with new trade laws and hearings. The debate over protectionism versus free trade moves to Congress. The resolution will determine American economic policy's direction. The decision is a double-edged sword for American businesses. Companies relying on imports celebrate lower costs and stability. The challenge is claiming refunds for illegal tariffs, a complex process. Domestic industries face renewed competition from foreign imports. Businesses face new uncertainty, awaiting Congress's trade policy decisions. The focus shifts to lawmakers to provide clarity and predictability. Dr. Emily Vance sees the ruling as a reset for American trade policy. The U.S. faces two paths: return to pre-2018 consensus, or create a new protectionist framework. The first path involves re-engaging with international institutions and multilateral agreements. The second path involves Congress creating a stable protectionist policy. Dr. Vance predicts a combination of both paths, with intense negotiations ahead. The focus shifts from the White House to Congress for trade policy. Lawmakers must provide clarity to avoid economic damage from uncertainty. The era of trade friction isn't over. The battlefield has shifted. The future of American trade policy depends on political and economic choices. The Supreme Court's decision opens a new chapter of uncertainty. The dismantling of global tariffs leaves a power vacuum in trade policy. The logistical chaos of unwinding tariffs will reshape industries and household budgets. The ruling shifts power over trade to a divided Congress. Lawmakers must forge a new path for American trade policy. The decision influences America's global relationships and leadership. The choices made will define American prosperity and power. The court has spoken, but the final verdict lies with political and economic decisions. The debate on trade policy is open to all, shaping the nation's future.